thanks to Brilliant.org for supporting PBS
I was looking
Digital
up hydrogen
Studios.
oxide.
There's this
Apparently
idea
it's
that
uncontainable.
beauty is
Come
a
find out it's
powerful guide
water.
to truth in the mathematics of
I mean,
physical
it does.
theory.
It condensates out
String
everything.
theory
You know,
is
like when you
certainly
don't want it in the
beautiful
machine,
eyes
this
of many
thing's supposed to be
physicists,
perfect, but it's a
but
concrete
is it
building
beautiful
on the
enough
ground
to
of Earth.
pursue, even if it's
Stuff's
wrong?
gonna get weird. Maintenance over this urn. Anyways,
Herman Weil once said,
I've been working
if I
on
have
a
to
fun
choose
one here.
between beauty and truth,
Oh,
I choose
I know.
beauty.
Oh, you see
It
stuff?
was in reaction
What
to
is?
a
What are those
rebuke by
things? I need to
Einstein.
know, and I can't tip the
Weil had
axis
tried
right
to
now
explain
because it'll make a
electromagnetism
mess.
by imposing on Einstein's general theory of relativity.
Alright, she's gonna be upside down, backwards probably. Alright, what are we doing here? This here's periodic table I've been working on. Chasing the rabbit. Why not? String theory, from what I can tell, the best way I can describe it is Planck's measurement, or the shortest distance there. Come to find out that it's rung on a ladder. It's on, what is a measurement one for what that is. I don't care about what the actual wave function is on scales. I'm trying to set this up like a Gaussian ring so I can deal with Hadron Collider, and I have a bunch of permutations like prime differences, and one of those interesting and useful things I can do with the squared circle problem, making triangles and certain folds under geometries. You're going to be chasing the rabbit, trying to figure out different ways to make symmetry, not writing code down as far as their limits, A, B, alpha, photon, which is the Z bosons as far as the weak forces interaction over to CERN comparatively to some XYZ stuff will definitely inevitably happen in the universe. If decay into hydrogen or fusion, there's X or Y routes on that this, which is if I had this set up in the middle to a 10 by 10, we're gonna I had another one around here somewhere. We're gonna have some center mass problems in center of physics when you do a long jump problem about dealing with this thing being a triple body problem, having globular smooth states, the wave function is what's globular and smooth, and trying to Gresham's law, a lot of that material, matter and material energy over Lucy's house was crush a computer. Like, you don't need to go ask Google anything anymore. Well, we'll still be asking Google because ask it. Pound it like a pinata. Anyways, those wave functions, those weights, Silver 107868 is one of those good ones because AUAX is a derivative fluid. It has gravity wells. When you're thinking about tidal forces of Jupiter or stuff in the Oort cloud that you are measuring, and it is acted upon FMA by something in stellar orbits out there, Nemesis coming at us fast and hard, that would be the type of moving faster than light because it's space stuff that they're talking about on a straight line because of a wave. And when you're dealing with the big massive neutron star black hole collisions of quark and black hole star types that collide, from having early universe but no supermassive black hole tendencies under protium, durium, and tritium as far as isotope states, hydrogen, where you get into heavy water, right? I think it's 13, I'm not sure. And so that gives them some XYZ states on a bandwidth of semi-imperial at one-dimensional or parallel, up, down, left, right. And so how you would have an initial start state of the tip of that pyramid build would be how I'm dealing with the optics or the Gaussian to make certain things fuzzle out of existent but be a wave that passes through those, kind of deal with the curvature, lensing, whatever it would need to be, Voyager, ripping one by. In string theory, a single stage relay to an electrician is the copper wire in this way to its triangulations. In amounts and proportions to the 7 increments of measurement, seconds, kilograms, or kilometers, meters, moles, temperature, Fahrenheit, hydrogen, Celsius. They all have their Celsius. They all have Kelvin. They all have their own negative 273 Kelvin, because at that stage, temperature differential will say, at this pressure, water freezes, it boils in a tube this long, trying to pull it up in a vacuum, it'll start to boil before it gets there, and physical evidence back that up. That's the string. That's where the wave functions live in, so there has to be something about why that vacuum can't pull that while the tube hasn't collapsed.
Exactly the right extra spatial dimension. String theory.
There, in a wave function timeline?
Supersymmetry. This is a theoretical symmetry between bosons and fermions, which
and so practical in this way too, because when you do a subject space, X or Y, scale out the chemistry experiment to a reduction under pressure. If drill sergeant or space-time general here in the room and you're in the pipes to the screaming fish problem, as far as X and Y, FX or whatever bracket we're dealing with here, are uniform temperatures under what standard model type you're dealing with. Right now it's interacting with certain strong forces. So the strongest forces that you have are going to be right-handed, the largest on scale. So you would say beast mode is far right about the sun, and that's the highest energy source we have short of a black hole, which is even righter than that. I mean,
5 different approaches to getting all of the desired particles out of the basic premise of strings wiggling in 10 dimensions. All require
the people banging around over at MIT. This why a lot of this is going to be psychology about this area may not be square, but there are symmetries of how people are acting inside of here in this environment that says it's going to act differently just by virtue of observation. This experiment, this brick and dryer conjecture, MIT teacher, Wolfgang, Spacetime, the YouTube clicks that actually hit the numbers on a differential makes this a metal fluid, makes this a wave function. It's got triple points on it. You hit that thing like Maxwell's demon about number of feet you're going to be living to that whiteboard before you drop.
represent the same physical process. These dualities
yeah, get slung up in your own game traps on your trail line. Well, if physics on those things, it would give you an indicator of martin or rabbit in the neighborhood to say that it's a point that changes the topology.
Good old simplicity of Kaluza-Klein theory, or at least to the simplicity of just one extra circular spatial dimension.
Sure.
In fact, let's simplify.
Tell you what, you make it hang in the stone mill and
only one
so I got a lot of permutations left here. At the very first move, I know that there's going to be hydrogen, ifdurium, and tritium, and what is up, or excuse me, what is, let's get the H on, what is up and what is down in that order of S and P, D, F, the electrons, the neutrons, and what order it's in kind of defines a lot of things about it. You might be able to get things in the neighborhood. It might be that I only have certain amounts and proportions, and therefore at 80% the differential is sodium reduction using tea tree oil and menthol crystals. You could use the lithium starter later, because again, that's not chemical. That's more of a weak force in terms of we can do the sodium reduction outside in a fire pit kind of thing, but in the end of the day, doing the lithium game in the end of that's going to be able to jumpstart you with a problem in that reduction, which we can purify later. We can change the gravity dropping out into a Bose-Einstein condensate where it baths through the dropout of what that pulse wave would do in physics. A lot of psychology can back that up, especially when you define the subject space, or what's square in there, x squared, y squared, I did that, somebody else did that, alpha did that, alpha, beta. Is this force reciprocaled? So the strong force or weak force is still measurements, but with two different points, and I want to harness the energy not here, but here. Screw gear or something like that's going to change that system in physics. It's going to angular to curve it all the way over, trip that circuit limit so it pokes back through it, and it can't decay that way, but we can purify stuff to hydrogen. I mean, it might as much be as the base state of energy that you're dealing with some of the fuzzles of the dark matter, quark, gluon, quark, lepton, and some strange stuff inside of there. But once you get to your 8x8s too, you know, not only do you have or your 4x4s, or how you fold the geometry. How do we really want to exploit this? Do I gotta start with hydrogen in every state and watch it do, and try to break that down through the Big Bang 10 to the negative 48, negative 40, 42, because they're quark stars, or a black hole star type would emit a different type of energy over a time, pressure, and heat. X and Y, Z, durium, or protium, durium, tritium. In terms of reactions, the shell, neutron stars that like leave a surface. It's now oil and water, because when you do lead and silver, you want to use a zinc anode in that crucible to dross off all the silver in that dross with a zinc dross on lead, which is lighter, and it changes the temperature of borax in the system to actually make it, and borax and steel or something, to drop the temperature so that it's a better reaction state for you to be able to pull YBCO out, a 1-2-3 ratio, a 30-60-90 triangle, and that's some of that geometry. 7 just gives me a log 7 or a bit 9 or some stuff that helps me process that with energy, because you should be able to, at least in certain subject spaces, scales. And when we're looking at maps, you could be in the mill, just in the mill, and then you can be above that mill doing other things at other points in time, and they are very different things. And if you're not in line with that as the hypotenuse or the hypothesis, the opposite, the adjacent,
supergravity should be the low-energy, large-scale limit to superstring theory. So
if we took this 8x8, I could take the 4 different standard models. If it was just a 4x4, I'd have to use a perfect square version of this at, what is 16 here? Silica.
Superstring theories with each other and with supergravity restored the sense of beauty to string theory. It appeared to be on the track to rightness.
Well, they would still use units, not measurements, because one, I want to, when you're looking at what this does to keep things square, you got to ask yourself, well, are there elements past 118? I know plutonium and calcium, I think, make fallodium 115, and from 104 to 106 to 105 over in California to Russia during the day.
The behavior of strings in these hyperdimensional surfaces.
I know here, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a 7. There's only going to be 49 places, 49 elements. And this one, 36, 25, 16, 9, 4, 4. And are we using front and backs permutations? I've done prime stuff where we've actually started at the middle and tried to figure out how to orientate what is the rectifier, or what is the circuit's charge inside of that, because you would be looking at that. If I was doing the crypto in front of you, that's one thing, but basically it's hoodoo voodoo magic happening over in the foundation about, that's a whole thing of...
If any do. This is the impasse. In principle, the standard model lives somewhere in the string landscape.
Well, you can take those standard models and you can rip them down pretty good inside of something like that there. And you could make certain symmetries. There would be more particles to why gauging it like that with that measurement tool, fractals, a Fibonacci sequence. It's starting you on your fractal off to the black body problem, which rips off to Maxwell before you figure out, extra. I did 3 experiments, 3 long jumps. I did those 3 long jumps, and I mean, maybe it is energy. Maybe it's just a long jump. Maybe it's Skull Mountain.
Follow the example of Herman Weyl and choose beauty over truth. One last word on Weyl. His idea of explaining electromagnetism by adding his gauge symmetry to general relativity was wrong, but it inspired the entire field of gauge theory, upon which much of our understanding of the quantum world depends. It also gave us
some fun geometries, and I'm sure that there's a lot. And it's gonna does it take supercomputers? I don't know.
So,
the measurements, I mean, this thing can get wild. You don't really know.
As wrong or incomplete as current
there's a difference between it being square and what actually it needs to do, because you understand it's x squared, y squared.
Learning the physics required to understand string theory